RCAW, we can support respite care initiatives in your community. If you have an idea how we can help you bring it to an impact. I do have two subject matter experts, Val Madsen from Calm Horizons, and also Kristin Forde she's the Cooperative Development Specialist for UW Center of Cooperatives. So I'm really glad that they were able to come and join us. And as we're talking, what I'm gonna do, I do have some slides to share with everyone, which I will get to you. But also I feel when I'm in a webinar, sometimes the best thing to do is to see the actual web pages that people are talking about. So first, what we're going to do, value of a great background. Is that real or is that?
It is real. I'm outside this morning.
Heck yeah. Okay. So Zoom is requesting a bypass. I am having problems. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
We can now, yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Let me just minimize that and I'll keep my eye on the waiting room. So like I said, I want to welcome everybody and I'm so glad you're joining us today for this really important conversation. We're going to be talking about RCAW's Bringing Respite to Your Community, the Startup Respite Grant Program, and also the Co-op Development Technical Assistance Award. What it is, who it's for, and how you can help make impacts in your community. To help guide us, we're going to start with Val first. Val I absolutely consider, and people consider her nationally, she's won some national awards for respite initiatives, but a subject matter expert. Val also designed Bringing Respite to Your Community. You can see that on my page right now, and I'll make that smaller, so hopefully it's better. But welcome, Val. And if you can you please give us a high-level overview of Bringing Respite to Your Community and how it's been adapted to include information about co-ops?
Yeah, of course. So thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be talking to everyone today and sharing this great information. Bringing Respite to Your Community is an online workshop that you take at your own pace. And it was developed because RCAW was getting a lot of questions about how do I start a respite program in my area? And this walks you through it. And what's great is there's not a single program design that this is geared for. It could be like an overnight respite program. It could be a faith-based respite program that's done volunteer-based. It could be a center-based, a community-based, in-home respite, kind of all the different models. And what we really like is that we are looking at the box. There's not a respite center license in Wisconsin. And so we have to look outside the box to figure out where respite fits in. And this workshop really goes through, okay, this is the funding in Wisconsin. This is how respite could fit in and how it might look. So this program, this workshop goes through a wide variety of topics, which includes like budgeting, licensing of different disability programs. It goes through marketing and staffing, program design, tax, policies and procedures, documentation, kind of everything to create a program, no matter what design you're looking at, whether it's, a LLC business, a nonprofit business, or a cooperative business. And so we have added information with a partnership into the different topics, specifically around cooperative design and how that might look. And so the workshop really covers like, hey, this is all the information. This is where you can find more information. Let's fit into your needs and wants of your community and make it happen.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Can you help us understand a little bit what you added to BRYC about the co-ops?
Yeah, so the cooperative model is a different business type. So similar to like a nonprofit or an LLC, it's a different type of business design. And so it fit in really nicely within the workshop where we were able to add information about when we look at program design. Okay, if you're doing in-home respite, how about considering a cooperative model? How about considering a cooperative model? And here's information about budgeting for co-ops. Here's information about how you would staff or how you would lead a cooperative. And so all of the cooperative information is integrated throughout the workshop as a different business model within your different options. And so it's really going through and figuring out what makes sense for your program, your community, and does cooperatives work and fit into that within kind of the respite model of Wisconsin.
Awesome. That was a great help understanding that. What would happen if someone listening or someone who's not here who watches the recording or stumbles across this on our website? What's the process like when someone signs up?
Yeah, so when you go to the RCAW website, you can sign up directly for the Bring in Respite to Your Community workshop. As we mentioned, it isn't completely online at your own pace. So you go through each section or each unit of the workshop has different information around different topics and has an assignment at the end of each unit. And within that assignment, it's not something that's turned in throughout the workshop. You really go through and figure out, let's build the information, let's add on all of the things to build your program design, whether it's a business, volunteer, whatever it is. And then as you go through, you end up building up to a project program or a program project that you'll submit at the end of your workshop. So you sign up, you get access, you take as much time as you need to go through. Some people, depending on where you're at within your process, will go through the first couple units fairly quickly. Because they've already done a program design and business structure. They have an idea of what they want. They've gone through the licensing. And so now they're really kind of skipping to the policies and procedures and the day-to-day stuff. And so you go at the speed of where you've developed your program. And then you submit your project to me at the end of your workshop. You set up a one-on-one virtual meeting. We talk about your project. We answer any questions you have about the information you found in the workshop. And then you have completed the Bringing Respite to Your Community workshop, and you're eligible to apply for some grants that we'll be talking about a little bit later today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Val. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute now and ask. You can type them in the chat. If we don't have any questions, what I'm going to talk about next is RCAW's Startup Respite Grant Program. It's on our webpage underneath our programs and grants. So our Startup Respite Grant Program, people can ask for from $5,000 up to $25,000 a year. I do want to say that the prerequisite to applying for the startup grant is you would have to have successfully completed Bringing Respite to Your Community. We gear these for brand new respite programs. That's why it's called startup. Or if there's an existing respite program that wants to expand services or expand the amount of respite they can provide for whichever population they're serving, that's what how we refer to existing. So it's not you have an existing agency right now and you just want some money, to help float you. You have to expand your services in order to qualify for the grant. Or if you're brand new to this, we do accept them throughout the year. However, the next application is due December 15th. So that's why we timed this webinar to do it now at the end of August, so people can go through Bringing Respite to Your Community and have ample time to soak in that knowledge and schedule a time with Val to talk about their program plan at the end, and then have enough time to fill out the application. I think I already said it, but I'll say it again. It is a competitive grant. Every round we have the amount of applications seem to increase, but I just wanted to give some examples of individuals who have received it and what they're doing it. This gal started Trusted Care LLC and she expanded respite services in Milwaukee County. They're all incredible, but this one is a traveling, Urban Angels traveling play care. And they were able to have a fun and engaging setting and provide respite to families while doing really fun things with kids.
Yeah, and I think what's great about this grant and bringing respite to your community is that there are so many be like traveling play care. It could be an in-home respite program. I've had some people that ended up purchasing a vehicle to do community-based field trips as respite, where they would go and pick up consumers in the home. Faith-based organizations, so the caregivers could attend church services and have respite during. It's just really super cool how many different program designs have come from the startup grant. It's really a testament to what RCAW does in order to support the growth of respite in our community.
Absolutely. And I did hop back to the BRYC, Bringing Respite to Your Community page, because if you're thinking of starting this, thinking of starting to provide respite care, this lists a great list of examples of programs. So a faith-based site, child care business to give parents and children with special needs a break, older adults, maybe one-on-one, a respite day program. So there's so many different programs that can be started if you successfully complete BRYC and apply for a startup grant. I am going to go next to Kristin Forde. We're so excited to have her here. And I don't think I see, I know this video is going to automatically start playing. So let me, oh, it made a liar out of me. Normally it starts playing, but Kristin is from the UW Center for Cooperatives and is a subject matter expert when it comes to co-ops. And Kristin, can you help listeners who are completely new to this space understand what's the first step a group should take if they're interested in a co-op?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I just want to share that I have a lot of experience with worker cooperatives and cooperatively owned businesses. And I also worked for 10 years at the Respite Center in Madsen. So this is work that's really near and dear to my heart. In both cases, cooperatives and respite care. So to answer your question, really the first thing is to do some learning. The best practice is to get together and do some exploration and try to understand the cooperative business model. Cooperation is a concept, as we know, right? Like, and an aspiration. And so starting there, is there a group of people who have a set of shared values? Shared values are essential. Is there a commitment to a certain mission, providing services to a community together? And then also a commitment to each other to really embark on this journey together and explore decision making as a group and explore sharing responsibility as a group. Really thinking about what it might mean to make decisions together democratically or whatever system in whatever system you decide. And then knowing that, that's not always easy, right? So sometimes there's disagreement and there's conflict. So learning how do you work through disagreements in a group and figuring, really anticipating that and building systems or like values into sort of your orientation. Also, a cooperative is not only a concept, cooperating with each other, but it literally is a business entity. So Wisconsin has a state statute that allows you to incorporate as a cooperative corporation. And so there's also some research to understand exactly what that means, sort of what the legal and financial implications of being a member and an owner of a cooperative entity is, and really beginning to understand what that business structure looks like. And I could talk forever, but I know you have other questions for me and I won't.
No, you're good. Thank you for that part. So If someone wanted to start a cooperative, one of the prerequisites is to go through bringing respite to your community, and you can apply for a technical assistance co-op award, and I'll share some literature with everyone on what that is. But before I do so, how are business structure decisions made? What's like the legality, governance? Help us understand a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure. So when I work with groups that are forming a cooperative business, we spend a lot of time in that early stages, as I said, thinking about values, mission, vision. And then once we get to sort of the business structure, we spend time writing the bylaws. So a cooperative business has a set of bylaws that is drafted by the founding members. And those bylaws are going to determine things like what is membership criteria? Like what needs to be true in order for you to be eligible to be a member? And we're talking about a worker co-op, right? So a baseline criteria is that you are an employee of said entity, right? And so in these early stages, we form a steering committee. So that would be the group of you who are interested in starting this cooperative. And we begin thinking about all of these rules. We call it the constitution in some ways of the cooperative. And these are going to be rules about who is a member, who can be a member, what is required of members. There's going to be a small, probably amount of money that you pay in, and that's like buying a stock to the corporation. And every member can only have one of those stocks. So each of you get one vote. And then this group is going to decide what you get to vote on. So this is the other thing, is deciding, sort of figuring out the decision-making rules of the business. Who decides what? There's going to be a board of directors. Those are top-level decisions, right? Sort of the decisions you think of as in a small privately owned business, the single owner makes decisions about, well, all kinds of things, right? Because usually they take on a bazillion roles. But those are high-level decisions. You're also going to have committees, groups of people who make decisions. You're also going to have management, right? So figuring out those relationships, who decides what, and how money moves through the organization, right? And so that's the structure that you're building in the beginning to set yourself up for success. Does that, any questions about that?
Think I see any. So what is the difference between someone, let's say there's 5 people that wanted to start a co-op and they come together, they want to provide respite care services. So you're not only a staff member, but you're a part owner, if you will, in the business, and can vote to make decisions that are based on the bylaws or the constitution of the co-op. So that's a really unique way to be employed, and to, if you've got that passion,
Right.
to be your own business owner. But so in Wisconsin, there's such a need for respite care and expanding respite care and more respite care options. But I especially am thinking of counties in certain regions that are extremely rural. And there's a huge need for individuals that live in rural communities. How could a small group of individuals who live in, I'm just Bayfield is the first thing that comes to mind, get started?
Well, maybe I could use Bayfield as an example, because that is an example of a very rural community with an aging community that's in real need of these services. And we're working with a group who, it's taken some time. It's taken a number of years for them to figure this out. But first, there were a group of people who are community members who know they're going to need support, and they want to know how they can create a cooperatively run business so that they can get support when they need it. And so I'm pausing to to make sure I share what's most relevant. Because they went through the stage of learning. They did research. They did some market research. They did a feasibility study. So they tried to figure out which financial model would work best. What services could they provide that would have a feasible business? But the stage that they're in right now is, well, where are the caregivers? The caregivers, because in a worker cooperative model, it is the caregivers, those of you who are caregivers, who get to own and run the business. There are other models of cooperatives where consumers are the ones who own the business and sit on the board of directors and govern this business. But that's not the model that we're promoting. We're promoting a business that is literally run, owned, and controlled by those who are doing the work. And so we've shifted now so that we're having conversations with caregivers. What we know is that caregivers are overworked and underpaid. And so finding the time, right, to do this really, it's work that requires a lot of thinking, and some emotional work. Because do you have the capacity for having really interesting, but also challenging conversations about, well, who decides when we get a raise, or who decides what we're charging our clients, and building out those systems so that you feel as a caregiver that not only are you saying what you think, but what you think is incorporated into the business plan. And so in Bayfield, what we're doing now, we've continued to put the word out in different places. Their local newspaper. We had information sessions at their local libraries. And really in those two places, we have gathered lots of interest from people who are doing caregiving on their own, and or they used to do caregiving and now they're interested in, because those of us who are caregivers never stop caring. And so we're beginning to gather that interest. What we've done now is we've figured out a way, and RCAW has been amazing in the support that they're providing. We have created a program where some administrators are going to receive a stipend to begin the business planning, while at the same time, I'm going to provide some technical assistance and guide a group of caregivers through this process of building sort of the infrastructure of the co-op. Any follow-up questions to that, Rachel? Or anybody on the call? Oh, you're muted, Rachel.
Sure am. Oops, thank you for telling me. Okay, so hypothetically, someone who takes bringing respite to your community, successfully completes it, you have two options if you choose. You can apply for the startup respite grant program, or you could apply for, I feel like I have marbles in my mouth some days, a co-op development technical assistance award. So if you could walk us through, Kristin, what someone applies for the TA, that's the acronym for technical assistance. Someone applies for it, and we do have on our website a document that it's downloading that talks about all of the steps, but just high level, or as much information as you want to give us. What is the amount of time someone would spend working with you, and what would it look like for them?
Sure. Yeah, so I would develop a program that would an estimate of maybe 8 weeks of one, like 90-minute meeting if we met every week, longer if we're not meeting every week. And in that session, we would work through parts of the bylaws, and each part of that set of bylaws would help define things like decision-making systems, how you become a member, what your board of directors looks like. And so what would happen is I would essentially act as the chair of that committee and help kind of so that we are learning together how to make democratic decisions, right? Decisions democratically, and understand what each component of that bylaw, those bylaws mean for your business structure. And so, yeah, I would say about 8 weeks. And then at that point, 8 weeks to 16 weeks, depending on how frequently we're meeting. And then at that point, we would have a set of bylaws, which becomes part of, and then you'd be ready to file your articles of incorporation, assuming that the other parts of your business planning are ready for that as well. Because we'd like to think about, there's the business planning, sort of the operations side, and then there's the governance side, which is the sort of the higher level decision making and how you incorporate members into that decision making structure.
Awesome, thank you. So 2 differences that I see for bringing respite to your community and the TA award, the co-op technical assistance award, would be you can apply at any time for the TA award. Of course, the prerequisite is BRYC with the startup, so it's 2 totally different models, but the startup looks at we review applications twice a year. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. That sometimes is a frequently asked question. I don't have any other questions. Val and Kristin, I think you did a great job walking us through both programs that you're experts in. Do you have any?
Can I add a little bit to kind of that? Awesome. So with the TA, so part of going through that TA process, which is a few months process, depending on your group, you are able, because you have completed the BRYC, you are able to apply for a startup grant down the road. And so the TA really helps you walk through and gives you a lot of support in that everyday, specifically around that governance piece, because it is a little bit different than a typical, LLC type business structure. And so the TA is going to really help you build your program model and make it stronger and set up all the back work. And then you're able to apply for the startup grant at that point. And so that is something just to keep in mind, that just because you go for the TA doesn't mean you're out of the startup grant. But it is, an option for people. And then you would go in with the regular 2 times a year and really look at competing with those other programs.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Oh, I see.
Yep.
Comment from
And we have a question. Yep.
Yeah. Can this be done by like one person, or is it a group kind of thing?
the startup or the?
Yeah. Well, both, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
So so the BRYC, if you're not going the co-op route, you could take that by yourself and you can own your own business, right? So you would go through the BRYC, start your respite, or come up with a program plan, meet with me, we talk about it, and apply for the startup grant for your own respite program. So that could be a volunteer-based program, that could be an LLC, that could be, an in-home whatever that looks like. If you're wanting the co-op route and have that cooperative assistance, that really has to be a group of people. That's not something you do by yourself, because you need that membership or that team of people, kind of like starting a nonprofit, right? You don't start a nonprofit by yourself. You have a team of people. It's similar with cooperatives. And Kristin, I don't know if you want to expand on that at all.
Sure. Yeah. The whole idea of a cooperative is that you're sharing kind of both the benefits and the risks of a business with others, and you're pooling resources, right? You're pooling your expertise, you're pooling your capacity, right? So you may have a certain amount of capacity, you pool that with somebody else's, and suddenly you've got twice. And if this is something that you as an individual are interested in, but you don't yet have, because I think what we've required is three people in order to qualify. Am I remembering that correctly, Val?
Yes,
For the
to
co-op?
qualify for the TA, no, for the TA assistant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
to apply for that TA co-op grant.
And legally, in order to incorporate, you actually need 5 people to sign as incorporators. That doesn't mean that but you need 3 of them to be founding members. And if you are spearheading and you're really interested in this, but you don't have membership yet, the UW Center for Co-ops is always available to help leaders figure out, how to build the team.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
To add to that as well, you could also not go the cooperative route and have a
Right.
partnership and have more than one person for an LLC or a partnership business design, right? So you could open like a for-profit business with 2 or 3 of you. And I've worked with groups that have done that before, not going the co-op route, but starting either a nonprofit or a for-profit design as partners in their business. So you don't have
Okay.
to do it by yourself, but you can do it by yourself. But specifically the cooperative model needs to have additional friends that help you build that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm popping in the chat our website as well as my email. If anyone has like a quick question they want to ask, like when we're done today. But anyone who registered for the webinar, I know there was a handful of people that registered that weren't able to come. So you, when you're here now, or anyone who registered, they're going to get a copy of this recorded webinar, as well as some slides and all of the materials that I showed you on the screen, as well as Val's email and Kristin's email. So don't feel like you have to leave and have all of the materials. If you have anything you want to ask, I will do a follow-up email with everyone to make sure you can stay in touch. But I did put our website in the chat, as well as my email, and I see Val and Kristin are putting their emails in the chat also, so you can grab it there, or you'll get it in your inbox. Are there any closing questions? Who's ready to start a new respite business?
Well, I think one thing that I don't think we mentioned, but all of these programs are free. Like
Oh yeah,
the training is completely free. Registering for the grants is like all of the RCAW programs are 100% free. But I think I see a question.
Oh, Andrea. I'll ask.
Latoya, did you have a question?
I do. I have purchased a property and I've structured it as an LLC, but there are 2 partners. Is that something that I could set up now, a co-op, since I'm already an existing LLC with a partnership? I have already purchased a 5,000 square foot property in a rural area, and I'm in the process of renovations, and I'm just kind of looking for guidance for that.
Sure. Yes, there are many ways you could think about doing that. One, you could just, you can have an LLC and run it like a cooperative. So essentially, right, like govern it and make decisions like a cooperative would. There are tax benefits to being a cooperative. There are different ways that money moves through a cooperative, and at the end of every year, there are different rules about what you do with that profit. So a cooperative is not for profit, but it's not a nonprofit, right? So at the end of every year, your board of directors will take a look at what money is left and decide what to do it collectively, including sharing the profit if there is enough profit to do. I understand that home care is not necessarily a high margin business, but that said, you do have control over what is done with any kind of surplus that there is. And so there's different, so in terms of like choosing what entity makes sense, there are some considerations about whether an LLC or a cooperative corporation makes most sense. And if you decide that you really want to go down the route of a cooperative corporation, you can convert your LLC or create a new one to operate it with the LLC, especially if that LLC owns the property, right? So you could run the business and lease the property from the LLC, right? But those are just like different ways that you can organize every part of the operation. And those are things, again, that the center can help you think through.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Great question. Awesome answer. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
I am a adult family home provider. And I am actually looking to add respite care services as one of the things that I offer within my AFH. So I guess my question on that would be, would I still be like starting an individual program, or is this just like, or can I just, I mean, I know I can add those services, but is it better to start an individual program within itself, or is it better to just have those services offered through my AFH?
Yeah, so looking at that, you could do it either way. You could start a new program as a respite program, though your AFH only has so many beds, right? So some of those beds are going to be respite beds. So really, you're just adding a business or a billing code to your program, right? Is really the biggest thing you're doing. So when you really start looking at like the startup grant or starting a new program, what cost is there any cost that you would have to adding respite to your program? If you're just adding a billing code, there's not really cost. You're not necessarily starting a new program. So I would keep that within. It's going to be so much easier for you just to keep it within your existing AFH program and maybe having one of your beds for respite. If you wanted to open a second home, then that makes sense to look at, BRYC and the startup grant to help with that second location. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, well, that was a lot of information and a lot of knowledge, and I hope everyone leaves the webinar today excited and intrigued to learn more and start bringing respite to your community, which is the foundation to either of the programs, the Startup Respite Grant Program, as well as the TA Cooperative Award. And we look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.